But first, I want to welcome back to the show Ali al-Dabbagh, official spokesperson for the government of Iraq. He's a former member of the Iraq Governing Council, an advisor to the council, rather, and a longtime human rights activist. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hillary Clinton addressed a U.S.-Iraq economic conference, and in her remarks, she made 4 points. I want to put those 4 points up and actually guide much of our early discussion on those 4 points and how they are being addressed. Let's look at the 4 points she made. She said, first, a key U.S. goal was to aid an Iraqi government in promoting national unity and resolving political conflicts. She made specific mention of Kirkuk. Second, she said to support Iraq's efforts to build strong relationships with its neighbors in the region. And then thirdly, to promote the return and resettlement of Iraq refugees and internally displaced people. And then finally, to support Iraq's economic development and full integration into the global economy. Let's start with the first, this unity and reconciliation issue. It's a big one in Iraq. And certainly a lot is at stake now. To talk a little about what efforts are being made in that regard.
Yes. Thank you, James. The issue of the national unity replaced the word reconciliation, as reconciliation is a pure Iraqi issue. I think there is some things when Joseph Biden, his first visit, a lot of issues come in the media that as he presented by Arab media that he is coming to follow up the reconciliation. We said, no, this is an pure Iraqi issue and we have to do it. We limit any interference with the issue of reconciliation in order not to be exploited. We thank the Arab League, we thank our Arab neighbors that this is an Iraqi issue. I think national unity is very important. The situation in Iraq politically needs that national unity in order to come. We are about to have the election, and definitely we do need to strengthen the internal political between the blocs and the parties. National unity, I think the United States aware and worried about the situation, and they would like to see that success. I think election one of the success mark for them as well as for Iraq, of course. But the national unity, I think, is one of the main issue which lead to a successful and transparent election.
Talk to me a little about the efforts made on that front, on the unity front then. There is the problem of still disaffected tribal groups in the Sunni areas. They were part of the surge that helped stabilize the country and eliminate, to some degree, the al-Qaeda presence. And they were to be integrated into the national forces. There are reports that has not taken place as some had expected, and there's a fear of some fallback into insurgency. Where are you on that front?
I think we overcome that critical situation. Many people, they said that Iraq government cannot deliver of having those 89,000 members. They were fighters against the Iraqis, against the Americans, and then a day and night we have to integrate them. We had agreed to integrate 20% of them in our security forces. It's a big risk to have a people which yesterday they were a fighter and then they have to be loyal to the system. Definitely they went through certain filtration in order to recruit the most suitable people, and now the 80% is being transferred to ministries and the civil administration. It takes time, but their salary, Iraqi government commit that they will pay them a full salary as the American had paid them, but nevertheless, that including around 70,000, 65,000 in one time is not an easy job. So we have some critical situation in some of the governorate, but I don't think that there is a risk of that they might go back to fight the government or fight.
The Kirkuk question, that's a big one, and a flashpoint that can, in fact, become quite destabilizing. Where are you on resolving that issue?
We are not close to resolve it fully, let me say frankly. Kirkuk is very complicated. Kirkuk is the model and a test for Iraq. And I think the biggest threat now, Kirkuk, is obstacle for having the election law. because the Kurd, they have a different vision, and the Arabs and the Turkoman, without having a consensus between those components. I don't think that imposing any formula on one of them going to succeed. This has been agreed with the Kurd, with the others. And now we are facing the problem of Kirkuk as how to integrate it in the election law. I don't think that Kirkuk, it could be solved in this year. We do need time, we do need more wisdom in order to accept a formula which could be accepted by the components. The Kurd leader also, they had understand that they cannot impose by force any solution.
You talked about Joe Biden being there, who had called for actually dividing Iraq into three parts and creating kind of a federal state. The issue is that during some critical years when the U.S. had a leverage to be able to help move Iraq one way and another, they squandered that leverage. Do they still have that leverage now, or as you said, is it no longer their business to engage in this concern?
Let me say that I had asked Mr. Joe Biden personally about the three divisions. I don't think it's no more division. Even the man is not thinking of that one. That one is a time where Iraq was in a critical situation, and it was a proposal which definitely all Iraqis had rejected. I think still Americans, they play a role, and still the American role is one of the positive role in Iraq till at least till the end of 2011. Still the system and all the organizations in Iraq is not yet completed, and democracy is part of the United States responsibilities to protect democracy in Iraq. Democracy being threatened still by the neighbor, still by some of the armored group, still of some of the Ba'ath party, which is till now they try to use the violence in order to come back to the power.
Talk about this. The second point in the first, in the Secretary of State's remarks were about strong relationships in the region. One of the recommendations in the Iraq study group was to form a compact, a regional framework. The argument being that the internal divisions in Iraq were being fueled by external players, and that either they were going to be playing under the table, or you sit them all at the table and create a transparent framework for Iran and Turkey and Syria and Jordan and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia to engage in what is felt to be their interests, and that is that this situation not fall apart. Are the internal divisions still a function of those external forces? Is that role of a regional framework still valuable, or would it be a source of new trouble?
Well, as soon as we are coming closer to the election, you could see that external element and the internal component. But let me say something, that we have to limit all the external influence, because there will be no consensus, there will be no agreement between those external elements on Iraq. Iran agenda is fully different from Saudis, from Jordanian, from Syrian, from Turkish. The only way for Iraq that they have to agree to leave Iraq alone, live in the way which Iraqis need, because if it is open on a Shia issue, Sunnis will be sensitive on it, and then Iraq should be neutral. Iraq should be a bridge between Iran and the Arab world. Iraq should be a place where it could live and could present a model for the Arab, for the Muslim world, for the third world. This is very important. I don't think that is the right way, that we have to bring all the neighbors and they have to agree. They will never agree. This is 500 years, Iranian, Persian, with the Ottoman, they were fighting on Iraq. And now for 30 years, Iran with most of the Arab world and Saudis, they are fighting. And Iraq is the battlefield. Unless we limit the external influence, the regional external influence, I don't think there will be stability in Iraq.